The Trump administration's Health and Human Services issues a new contraceptive mandate, granting relief to religious nonprofits and others with deeply held religious or moral convictions regarding contraception. This means more groups will be protected and not forced to provide abortion-inducing drugs, sterilization, and contraception under threat of heavy penalties.
Preventive care should include coverage of contraceptive services such as birth control.
While the original rule established by the Obama administration is still in place, now some groups can be exempt from the mandate if they can demonstrate a religiously based objection to the mandate's demands. We discuss what this means for the Little Sisters of the Poor with one of their representatives, but first we go to Capitol Hill. We're joined now by Tennessee Representative Diane Black. Congressman, thank you for your time.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's great to be with you, Catherine.
In January of 2016, you submitted a bipartisan amicus brief filed with the U.S. Supreme Court and signed by 207 members of Congress in support of the religious nonprofits and charities challenging the HHS contraceptive mandate. Why did you want to be involved in this debate in the first place?
Well, because I believe in our First Amendment and our religious freedom. It is essential. It is the very basis of who we are in this country. So that when people have deeply held beliefs, that the government doesn't have a right to come in and say that you can't have those deeply held beliefs. And it is a fundamental right that we have as a U.S. citizen.
What do you believe is at the core of this debate? Is it about access to contraception, as Planned Parenthood would have you believe?
Listen, we see women who can get contraceptives at health departments. If they are at a lower income, they are free. So contraceptives are available. I think this is more for those who want to see our religious freedom taken away from us, where they use the contraceptives as the bargaining chip. But the truth of the matter is that contraceptives are available. And when people have deeply held principles, they should not be held accountable for saying we're going to fine you with large amounts to violate their deeply held principles. That is our First Amendment right, is to have those deeply held principles withheld.
You are now calling for the Justice Department to take action. What exactly do you want to see from Attorney General Jeff Sessions and his team?
Yes, I want to see that they have resolution here to say that no longer are they going to have the Little Sisters of the Poor have to abide by that HHS mandate, and that they relieve them and give them resolution from that mandate.
This announcement on the updated HHS mandate came from the Trump administration. But what action on religious liberty can we expect to see from Congress? Where do things stand with the Conscience Protection Act, for example?
Yes, I would love to see us go back and to look at the Conscience Protection Act and be able to pass the Conscience Protection Act. I think it's instructive that when we look back into 1993, which really hasn't been that long ago, just a little under 25 years ago, where you had Senator Schumer that sponsored the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act, and now just this short period of time later, and it's really just a blip in our history to see that we're not honoring religious freedom like we did back even just 25 years ago. And if this were to continue down the road that it is right now, it's really scary to think what my children and grandchildren might be under as far as federal regulation when we don't honor our First Amendment right of religious freedom in our Constitution.
Congressman, as a registered nurse, what do you believe is the role of religious liberty for pro-lifers who simply want to carry out their work and not violate their conscience?
That's right. Look, I'm pro-life all the way down to my bones, and I want to be sure that everything that we do here in Congress honors folks that are pro-life and that do respect life, and we know that a life is a life. And so everything that I can do as a congressman to ensure that we continue to be able to live our deeply held principles, I will do.
Representative Diane Black of Tennessee, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
For a reaction and continued analysis, we are joined in our D.C. studio by our trusted experts. Marjorie Dannenfelser is president of the Susan B. Anthony List, and Monste Alvarado is executive director of Becket, the religious liberty law firm defending the Little Sisters of the Poor and EWTN. Thank you both for being here.
It's great to be here with you again.
It is so good to have you both. Now, Monste, what does this update mean? Have the Little Sisters of the Poor one case over?
I wish we could say that, but Friday was a phenomenal day for religious liberty. The new interim final rules really overturned the mandate and went beyond the protections that we expected to see. So it's a phenomenal update. For the Little Sisters of the Poor, however, their cases still need to be resolved. And we have to remember why we're continuing to push for their cases to be resolved. Congress can do some incredible things. The executive branch can do some wonderful things to create protections. But when you have a shift of power, those can always go away. When you set strong precedents in court, you're setting a signal that cannot be overturned, depending on who's in power.
Now, Marjorie, what does this update mean for the pro-life movement? Put this into perspective for us.
This is the full force of this past election. This is promises being kept. This is about leveraging those promises being kept in the next election. It's not just power grabs and power leveraging. What it is making sure that this electoral process is vouchsafed for pro-life people, that every promise that we have in the Declaration and the Constitution is made real in these elections.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Monste, abortion lobbyists are painting this picture as if the government is taking away contraception from women. Now, the Catholic Church stands in opposition to birth control and all forms of contraception. But how do you respond to this depiction that's being put out there? How many people will this impact?
So this is this wonderful way of creating hypotheticals that don't really exist. No one is missing access to contraceptives here. It's the Little Sisters that are being crushed with fines and being forced to violate their conscience. Those are the women that are being ignored by these groups that are trying to come in and force them to do something that really is against their deeply held religious beliefs. And we heard the Congresswoman talk about how important this is and why we need to protect them and why we have programs that allow the federal government to provide these drugs and services without having to railroad these groups and individuals that do have deeply held religious beliefs.
Now, we both had you here about a month ago saying this updated rule was overdue. It's here, but what took so long? And what more would we like to see from the Trump administration on this?
Well, I think, like, when it comes to our family, our friends, our pro-life community, our political allies running government, it's not as easy as it looks. But that is one thing. On another point, I think that it's really important that we make sure that confirmations are happening. I think it's really important that our voices are heard within our friendship community, within the administration, that these confirmations in all aspects of government, in the at HHS, at the Justice Department, and at State Department, that those confirmations happen. And I think, frankly, that's the big lag. I do not believe it is a lag of will. I think it's been a lag of bureaucracy. I really do think that's true.
We spoke with the Little Sisters of the Poor a few months ago about this court battle, and this is what Sister Constance Veet had to tell us. Let's take a listen.
I never get discouraged, even when things weren't looking good, because we know God wins in the end. You know, we know who has the final victory, and if we place our confidence in Him, things will work out.
Monste, what's it been like to work with the Little Sisters throughout all of this?
What an incredible joy. And what a great gift they are. Working with the Little Sisters of the Poor has really given us a window into what it's like to be selfless and giving and truly live out your Catholic faith every day.
Marjorie, turning topics a little bit, we have now seen the pain-capable bill introduced into the Senate. How crucial is this pro-life battle at the Senate level right now?
It is crucial. This piece of legislation will divide the sheep from the wolves, and when it comes to Senate elections and all the battleground states that we're looking at coming up in 2018. We have a vote coming up very soon in the Senate about a 20-week bill, just stopping it at that very modest place. I think we've said it on this program many times, but we only have a handful of countries that we're in the Human Rights Club of. It's Vietnam, China, North Korea, and a few others. We've got to change this in our country. If you can't do that and you are a U.S. Senator, then you need to move into the private sector. We're doing all we can in the pro-life movement to make sure that these Senate elections in 2018 hold those senators accountable that vote negatively on this bill. I think it's a reach, not short of it, but there are always miracles that for us to pass this bill. It's possible, but we definitely need to make our voices heard in every single Senate office to see if we can possibly get to that margin.
And we will be watching those senators and holding them
Yeah.
accountable. Thank you both for your work and for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.